Welcome back in, everybody. Schuyler Callihan here on Between the Eers. Yes, a lot of transition has been taking place over at our home at Mountaineers now. So we've been spending the last couple of days dealing with that, but we are back for good. We won't have an episode tomorrow. This will act as tomorrow morning's episode, but a late night edition of Between the Eers as West Virginia has made a decision, and that is that Darian DeVries is the next men's head basketball coach at WVU. And I love this hire. I had DeVries as my second option behind Pat Kelsey from the College of Charleston. And more that I think about it, I think I was a little ahead on Kelsey. I think he's going to be somebody within the next year or two that is going to be viewed as one of the top up and coming candidates in college basketball. He really already is. He, along with Nico Medved and some of the other names that you continued to hear throughout this coaching search, or even dating back to last year in the accelerated search. But I think Kelsey's going to get there. He's going to get a high major job sooner than later. I might have just been a little bit ahead on that, but it was 1A and 1B for me between Kelsey and DeVries. I thought both of them had outstanding resumes, have won pretty much every year that they've been a head coach. In Kelsey's case, he's done it at two programs now with Winthrop and College of Charleston. And then with DeVries, he's done it all 6 years at Drake. You look at Drake, and they've been a team that's gotten to the dance before. They've had some decent years every now and then, but for the most part, that was a program that was kind of at the bottom of the MVC, the Missouri Valley Conference, for several years. The 3 years before DeVries took over, they were 7-24, 7-24, and 17-17. Since he's been on the job, they've had 20 plus win seasons in all 6 years. And in those first 5 years, that marked the first time in program history that they eclipsed that mark in a 5-year period. So just goes to show you how much he can turn things around, not over the long haul, but especially this year. They had to replace a lot of talent. It was a lot of moving parts, really. They used the portal. They had 10 new players on their roster this year. That's a lot. That's a whole two-man or two-string rotation you've got going on there. 10 players new to this program, and they go 28-7, 16-4 in conference play to win the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. They get to the NCAA tournament. They face Washington State. And for the longest time, I really felt like they were going to beat Washington State. And I picked them in my bracket to beat Washington State. I actually even had them upsetting Iowa State in the round of 32, but who knows if that would have actually happened. But it was a very entertaining game. 64-61, I believe, was the score. I don't have that in front of me here. But the one thing that I think people are going to start picking at, and this is just me predicting ahead here, because everyone's going to go back to those Ren Baker transcripts and say the one thing he continued to talk about and reiterate was, we've got to have a defensive-minded coach. We've got to have a defensive guy here that can play winning basketball in this conference, because to win the Big 12, you have to play defense. You look at Drake's numbers defensively, they're very skewed. Don't look at the points per game. It is irrelevant in this case. You want to see how Drake plays defense. Look at what they did on the run in the conference championship, in the conference tournament, and what they did against Washington State. Held them into the 60s. It was a very well played game defensively, really, by both sides. And another reason why I kind of say you got to throw the points per game thing out the window is because they had 4 games go to overtime this season. You have that many games go to overtime, obviously that number is going to get bumped up just a little bit. And one of those games, I believe, went to 3 overtimes, maybe even 4 overtimes. I'll have to double check on that. But either way, that's not going to help your numbers. So I think if you were to look at what they did in regulation, they were solid. They were stout. And again, they're a team that doesn't really have the personnel that can guard bigs and stuff like that. They were very undersized, very guard heavy team. And we're going to see some of that transition, obviously, once DeVries gets here to West Virginia. He's able to use the portal, able to use the resources, the NIL, the practice facility. He can use all these things to pitch the fan base to get the type of personnel that he needs to win in this conference, and I believe he will. Now, how long will it take? I don't know. I do believe that he will have this team back in the tournament before long, and it could happen next season. I'm not going to rule that out. I think if you have a strong month or so here with the transfer portal, you're able to retain some key guys, go out and add some pieces. There's a chance they could get back to the tournament next year. Absolutely. With the way that this thing works out, it doesn't take 3-4 years to build a program into a postseason type team or a tournament caliber team. You can do it one off season. We saw Jerome Tang do it last year with Kansas State in their deep run into the tournament. We've seen it with a number of other schools. It can happen, and I believe it will happen again as long as the portal treats them well. The portal has already treated them well to some extent, as Tucker DeVries, Darren's son, is expected to follow him to West Virginia. Not a surprise, but it is a pretty big pickup, if we want to call it that. Tucker led Drake in all 3 seasons that he's played there in scoring. I'm bringing up his stats here: 13.9, 18.6, and 21.6 over the last 3 years is what he averaged per game. Shot 43% from the field and just a tick under 36% from 3-point range. So he is definitely someone that can score the basketball. When you lose Raekwon Battle and you lose some of the other pieces that West Virginia's losing, potentially losing as well, that's big to be able to bring in somebody like this that can shoot it, not have a fear of shooting, and he's going to attack the paint at times. He's going to pull up that mid-range game. He's a 3-level scorer and can do it efficiently. Also averaged 5.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and a little over 1 steal per game over 104 games. In the tournament against Washington State, he had 14 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 6 of 18 shooting against Washington State. So, duo package here, a family package with Tucker and Darren, and puts the nail in the coffin. Unfortunately, for those that thought that there was maybe a chance of a Bob Huggins getting his second chance, that's not obviously going to happen. It was never really going to be in play, but it seemed like it was a 2-man race down the stretch there between DeVries and Mark Byington of James Madison, who, man, what a season they just had. 30-plus wins. They beat Wisconsin in the 5-12 game. They got beat handily today against Duke, but what can you expect? I mean, at some point, things aren't going to go in your favor, especially when you have that much of a personnel disadvantage. But I really love the hire. I really do. I think defensively, he's going to be able to bring some different things to the table. We know they can score the ball. And this is somebody that I think what we're going to hear in these coming days when we have the official press conference, whenever that is it's going to talk. We're going to hear a lot about how Darren is able to develop talent. Again, when you have 10 new guys on your roster, that takes a level of development, even in one season. You go back to his time at Creighton, he spent a lot of time around Greg McDermott and Doug McDermott. And according to Greg, he was around Doug and was a big, big piece of Doug McDermott's run there at Creighton and being able to do what he's done in the NBA for these last, 8 or 10 years or however long he's been in the NBA. So he's been around winning programs, winning resumes with McDermott at Creighton and also Dana Altman at Creighton. Altman, the Oregon head coach, was at Creighton before he got the Oregon job, and DeVries was kind of a hangover to McDermott's staff. He hung around and then got the Drake job, and obviously he's done phenomenal things there. So I think he's got a winning pedigree. He knows how to develop talent, and he's taken a program that was really struggling in a mid-major conference and turned them into kind of a power in that league. 20 wins every year, 25 wins, a handful of times, 3 conference championships, NCAA tournament appearances, got their first NCAA tournament win in 2021. That was the first in over 50 years or nearly 50 years. This guy knows what it takes. And like I've said many, many times before, you have to trust Ren Baker. He's got it right on numerous occasions, whether that was Mark Kellogg the first time, Mark Kellogg the second time here, Grant McCaslin at North Texas, Ben McCollum, even though he didn't hire him, he had the most success while he was partnered up with Ren Baker. I'm telling you, Ren Baker knows basketball. He coached it. He understands it. He knows how to identify a good up-and-coming coach, and I think West Virginia's got one here with Darian DeVries. Let me know your comments here. If you're watching on YouTube, actually, that is the only place our show is right now. So if you're used to watching us on Mountaineers Now, the site, we will be going full-time over here on YouTube with these shows. So make sure you click that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section about this hire, and we'll be back here Tuesday morning on Between the Eers.